Yeah, welcome back, one and all, to the Control Your Epps-perience podcast. I am the namesake Alan Epps, hoping you've been controlling your Epps-perience in this very real and taxing and trying world. We're trying to meander our way through. Couple things. YouTube viewership. If you'll notice, you're not really a viewership right now because my iPod / camera has fucking disappeared. I have no idea where the fuck it is. But I want to make sure that this is available on YouTube, so instead you'll see this picture. Possibly, depending on how deep into it I get, I might alternate the pictures between the topics, but most likely you'll just get the logo. Sorry. But the main thing is the message is still there. Free my camera, where the fuck it is. So you'll notice this one's a little late, partly because I was under the weather this weekend, and then I got caught up in football, and my sleep schedule has been off, bro. Like I'll be waking up at like 2 o'clock just stuck, but like not function. I'll just up and can be productive, just be in a haze, and then I finally go to sleep, and then it's time to wake up again, and then I'm dragging it. It's been hell. I actually had a COVID scare because my aunt tested positive, and my dad was with her this previous, not the NFC championship, AFC championship weekend, but the weekend prior, he was with her. So we were waiting for his results to come back, and I had a scratchy throat. So you know how, like, even if you might have had something before, your brain is going to automatically make the worst of it, or you'll start feeling things out of nowhere that aren't there. But the long and short of it is I'm COVID-free. My family's COVID-free other than my aunt. She's asymptomatic, I think, and my cousin has a little bit of sniffles, but they should be all right. At least that's what it appears to be. So, yeah. But it's kind of crazy that today is the day that I was able to get this out. It is the 26th. It's about 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that this is the 1-year anniversary of the day that we lost Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gigi Mamacita, as well as those other souls, the pilot, the friends, family members, teammates that went down on that helicopter. It still doesn't seem real. Still kind of hard to even see the pictures, the videos of him, not even just playing, just being a human, interacting with his daughter, watching the other players' reactions when they found out he passed. And yeah, man, Kobe now, Kobe forever. That's insane. And again, like, I'm not one of these, Kobe religious people. Like truth be told, when he was playing, I respected the game at all times, but he kind of annoyed me for how he handled the whole Shaq and his wife situation. But I mean, they're brothers, they made up. So who am I to keep bringing it up? And men are flawed, he was a young kid too. Players fuck up. But his impact on basketball, on sports, but internationally, on business, on the WNBA, on women's sports, on just changing people's mindsets on how to approach life. Even though you're not an NBA basketball player, however, whatever you want to excel at, to have that Mamba mentality, man, it's crazy. R.I.P. to God. And in the same vein, we lost Hank Aaron this past week. Now, I'm not going to let you motherfuckers, you fucking hoteps, I don't want to say detract from, but taint his memory and his legacy by trying to assume that just because he had gotten the phase 1 shot of the COVID vaccine, that's why he died. The man was 86 years old. He had already had a bout with cancer and some other health problems. And even if he was a perfectly healthy 86-year-old, that's what 86-year-olds do. They go to sleep sometimes and they don't wake up. Okay? There's been no autopsy or anything, and even if there was an autopsy and they cleared him, you would say there was a conspiracy. Just shut the fuck up, man. Let the late, great god of the baseball diamond live. A lot of people don't understand who Hank Aaron was, this boy from Mobile, Alabama. He went and broke Babe Ruth's home run record, all the while being black in that era, where the Negro Leagues were considered less than a sideshow, having to fight his way into the majors and then smashing the record of the then messiah of baseball. Yeah, that's crazy. R.I.P. to God. In sports news, before I get into the NFL, Deion Sanders, I guess, got welcomed to Mississippi. Somebody broke into his truck. Now, I initially thought he got robbed, which, yeah, but he got burgled, I guess, because they broke into his truck, stole some money and stuff like that. But the main thing was they stole a boombox, which has some kind of sentimental value because I mean it's 2021. Who has a boombox anymore? And it's like an older school one, but I'm sure it was given to somebody who's either dead or something, not with us. It has some deep sentimental value. And he had to plead for the streets the way these rappers plead for their chains to get his shit back. But the good news is he got it back, and I'm glad. Please don't run that man out of there. That's the best thing that happened to that town, to HBCU football. We need him. Protect Deion Sanders at all costs. Now, going to the conference finals of the NFL that we got to watch this past weekend. Man, that was some good football. Some great football. The first game was Tom Brady and the Bucs versus Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. And I initially, was excited for this because those are two quarterbacks. One currently, I don't know how it can be argued, he is the greatest quarterback to have ever played the game to this point. Now, I'd say that fully being objective. I'm not a Tom Brady stan. I am irritated that he's even brought a shadow to his legacy with the numerous cheating scandals that he was linked to. Not just limited to Spygate and Deflategate, but the fact of the matter is people like to just act like this never happened. But I remember vividly where he was linked to that steroids scandal that ultimately, it was after Mark McGwire. I don't think he was linked on that one, but it was right around the time that Jose Canseco started throwing around crazy accusations. And because it was Jose Canseco and nobody trusted a word that came out of his mouth, I think he mentioned Tom Brady's name and it went away as, Jose being Jose. But the same scandal ended up getting Rafael Palmeiro. And they was linked to Tom Brady's trainer, a trainer who had contact with Tom Brady. But let's throw all that away. Anybody who watches football knows that Tom Brady got drafted way late. I think it was the 5th round. And the major knock, you can Google this right now, the major knocks on Tom Brady's scouting report was that he had a weak arm and that he was undersized, not height, but weight. He was a tall, skinny dude. He wasn't all that fast. He had a weak noodle arm. And it was even more damning because he came out of Michigan, not like some D2 prospect that just showed better. Michigan is one of the top Division I, at least especially at that time, was one of the top Division I programs in all of the NCAA. It was one of the programs that resembled the pro game. That's what a lot of those guys get drafted because they're in a pro style offense and defense that translates to the next level. And they recruit. They routinely play Ohio State, which is also another powerhouse, but they get the gimmick of being schemed. So that's why Michigan players tend to get, at least around that era, got drafted regularly. Okay, so for their quarterback to come out and get knocked for that, as if he's coming from a smaller school, and this is a program that has all the resources available to it, so it's not like he couldn't work out. It's not like he couldn't have access to nutritionists and stuff like that. To be undersized, that's why he went so late. And if Bledsoe never gets hurt for the Patriots, Tom Brady never has his moment to save the Patriots in the Super Bowl and become the starter. But from the time that he won the Super Bowl, from the time that he was still a lanky dude, skinny dude, go watch the tape. He's a tiny, tiny man, tall but tiny. And his arm, his passes weren't terrible. They weren't like Chad Pennington, but they weren't anything special. He didn't throw any bombs or anything like that. He threw the passes he needed to throw when he needed to throw them with great accuracy. But when he came back for training camp, this man was throwing the ball 50, 60 yards on a line off his back foot. He had put on over 20, 30 pounds of muscle. That just does not happen in less than 3 months without assistance, especially at that age. It's not like he hit a growth spurt or anything like that. It just does not fucking happen. It doesn't. Now, that said, no amount of steroids is going to turn anyone into Tom Brady. Tom Brady understands football. He understands defenses. No steroids going to teach you that. If anything, it's going to make it harder because you can't focus. You're going to be angry and all this other shit. No steroid is going to put the touch on a football that Tom Brady puts. No steroid is going to put ice in your veins every time you get less than a minute and a half with the ball to score with the game on the line. That is who Tom Brady is, and that is why Tom Brady is the GOAT at this point in history. And keep in mind, I love Steve Young. All right, Joe Montana. I am one of the Warren Moon, Randall Cunningham. Tom Brady is the GOAT quarterback to ever play in the NFL. However, I think that's going to be the shortest reign as the GOAT because assuming Pat Mahomes stays healthy and is able to have the career that he is already having right now, he's going to break everything that Tom Brady's ever done in a fraction of the time. So, yeah. With that said, Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers went out there, put on a clinic. Green Bay got out to a rough start, turning the ball over, not being able to stop. And then their defense, that cornerback got hosed twice. I think the first time they went deep on them, Tampa, and this was after the turnovers, and they had already gone up. It looked like Green Bay's defense made a stop. They faked the punt, or were going to go for the punt, but then called a timeout, and they bombed deep over the cornerback. And by then, it was almost 21 up. But you can't count Aaron Rodgers out. Aaron Rodgers brought him right back. Tom Brady threw 3 second-half interceptions, bringing Green Bay right back into it. And that doesn't take away from who Tom Brady is. I mean, he's still human. He's still 40-plus years old. So, but, you know, everybody's like, oh, Tom Brady really just picked a team and said, y'all want to go to the Super Bowl? Cut that shit out. That defense is playing lights out. That defense is great, but they're streaky. There's times that they can't be fucked with. There's other times they don't show up. And this is what they picked the right time to show up against Aaron Rodgers. And still, it was a close game. Arguably decided by Aaron Rodgers not taking off to go run a touchdown in, not going for it on fourth down, and then a bullshit. And you can't say it's bullshit because the dude did pass interfere with him, but the first interception from Aaron Rodgers was a blatant pass interference that they did not call. So again, and if Tom Brady isn't Tom Brady, where, you know, because of his horrific knee injury years ago, they try to protect him in the league, okay, fine. But then the fact that he's linked to these other scandals and stuff like that, do we have to entertain these arguments that, oh, the league wants Tom Brady to go to the Super Bowl, so they called it for him? You can't say that, not when he's playing against Aaron fucking Rodgers, another marquee name in the NFL. But at the same time, that's why what annoys me about Tom Brady. We can never just celebrate Tom because of this bullshit. So, but at the end of the day, I've got no problem with Tampa. I would have loved to see Aaron go. If for nothing else, this is the first time he had the conference final in Green Bay and then to lose it. And then I wanted to see him go because, you know, he's Aaron fucking Rodgers. Him and Patty Mahomes would have been a dope duel. However, I don't think Green Bay's defense is anywhere near what's going to be needed to hold the Chiefs in check. So that might have been a blowout. We just would have been guaranteed a shootout because Aaron wouldn't have stopped throwing. But I'm good with the Bucs getting there because that defense is probably going to be the second or third best defense that Patrick Mahomes sees. The first being Buffalo, and he beat them, which we'll get into in a second. But yeah, that was a great game. I hate it ended the way it did, but at the same time, you can't complain about that football game unless you're a Packers fan. Well, fuck y'all, because Dez caught it, motherfucker, and I don't want to hear that the refs robbed you because we actually got robbed, bitches. But then going to the next game, so you got Patty Mahomes against the upstart Bills with Josh Allen, and you know this was also a great game. At the end of the day, it looked like the Chiefs were in trouble. They had a couple miscues, a fumble, and then a punt return muffed, and the Bills got up on them. But they didn't capitalize with touchdown. I think it was like 9-0 at some point, 13-0, which is nothing against Pat Mahomes. But that defense was playing lights out. But you can only hold the Chiefs for so long. There were a couple plays where Tyreek Hill dropped the ball, Kelsey dropped the pass, and they said it was only his second or third drop pass all year, which is insane for somebody who gets over 100 receptions a year. Yeah, so the Chiefs were kind of shooting themselves in the foot, but eventually they came back. And Josh, I don't want to say that the moment was too big for him, but he is a streaky passer. But he competed at all times. I like his composure. That rookie's going to go on to do great things in this league. It's just not his time right now. That Chiefs team is too right. They got their ace. The defense played well because Stephon Diggs is nothing to slouch. That Bills offense is nothing to slouch at. So I think the Bills defense, the Chiefs defense, has less of an occasion to rise to against the Bucs offense than the Bucs defense does against the Chiefs offense, if that makes any sense. If the Chiefs offense is going to click, it's just how well they're going to click. The real question here is the Chiefs defense bad enough for Tom Brady to pick apart and keep Patrick Mahomes off the field, which I don't think they are. I don't think they're going to run the ball enough or keep the clock moving enough to keep Patty off the field. And at any point in time, Pat can go down the field in a heartbeat. I think that the Chiefs have decent enough corners to keep either Mike Evans or AB from scoring on them in an instant. And I don't know what's going on with Chris Godwin. He's dropping passes that I've never seen him drop. So maybe Gronk is the X factor here because I believe Gronk has had big games against those linebackers on the Chiefs. But what we are guaranteed is a great fucking game. So I'm excited to watch it. Like I said, we were treated with this playoffs where the best quarterbacks in the league made it to the final rounds of the playoffs. And, you know, Tom Brady, this is his 10th appearance, I think, and he can get another ring. But I think Patty Mahomes knows he wants to slay the dragon, and he's excited. Anybody else would be nervous. Like, Pat Mahomes can't wait to go out there and take down Tom Brady. So I like the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, but it's going to be a great game regardless. I'm going to be kind of annoyed if Tom Brady wins it because it's going to be Tony Dungy's Bucks again, where he got that team ready, and then, you know, John Gruden gets the credit for taking them all the way. But who knows? Moving past football and sports in general. So Trump, you know, we saw the inauguration and he's gone, but before he left, he basically lit a fire in every trash can and upper decker in every toilet and left the water running. He issued over 100 pardons, most notably to us, and when I say us, the culture, to rappers Lil Wayne, who I get because Lil Wayne went on like a little mini campaign tour for Trump. And that's probably why, as I spoke about on some other podcasts, where he was going to go sell those masters, and he hurried up and copped a plea and pled guilty to the gun charge so that it'd be resolved in time for Trump to pardon him. So that was no surprise to me. Kodak Black getting pardoned was because I don't know anything about Kodak Black's politics. I don't ever remember him hyping Trump up, but who knows what that was all about. But I did hear that when he got pardoned, Kodak had already made like a tweet or something saying that if he gets pardoned, he'll donate X amount of money to charity. And then he went and deleted that tweet. So that's on brand for young Kodak, the finesse kid. And then fucking former Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick got pardoned and released. Now, this one kind of grinds my gears because in addition to the economic havoc that Kwame Kilpatrick wreaked on Detroit and the wanton corruption he aided, abetted, and promoted, you know, the argument is, the white man, well, from people who are Kwame supporters, the white man, that's all they do in politics. They don't get thrown in jail. Well, whatever. Okay, I'm not that person who campaigns for the right to commit crimes the way the white man is. But I do understand that argument. Like, so when is it a problem that a black man does it? My issue with Kwame is that there is a very real accusation, and I'm inclined to believe it, that he had a former female lover killed because she was either blackmailing him or she threatened to expose some shit that he had done. And he had her taken out. And of course it has been proven, but you can't, just the sequence of events and the way she was killed, no. He absolutely had a hand in that shit. And he's never shown an ounce of remorse, and now he's just asked to get out, but he's not sorry for what he did. So, and then there's people still living there whose pensions are gone behind his ass. But whatever. At the base of this is Trump is trying to appeal to the blacks because I guess he intends to try and stay politically relevant. He's founded some kind of office of the former president, which is not an actual government office, but it's like him basically, the best we can assume is that he's trying to start his own political party, which I'm all for. Everybody's like, impeach him now so he can't run again. I told y'all last podcast, I think that's a mistake. The longer that he is a technically viable candidate, the more havoc he can wreak on the GOP. And if the Democrats want to be able to get Biden's presidency off without opposition, and not only that, set himself up for re-election, or at least set the stage for Kamala to win on her own merit, because let's not forget, we can automatically see from these numbers, if Kamala had been the lead on that ticket against Trump, Trump would be in office right now. So she can't win by herself, at least not right now. She definitely needs to use a successful Biden term as a springboard, assuming that he finishes term, or if he dies or some shit and she becomes president, she needs to be able to hit the ground running, and she will not be able to do that if the Democrats lose the Senate, which the Democrats will absolutely lose the Senate if they come off with Biden's most radical policies, to include gun control in those barely won Senate seats. They'll go right back, and then they will spend the next 2 years after the midterms filibustering everything and then now that Trump is out of the picture because he was impeached, the Republicans will be able to rebrand, take those seats back and field a candidate who might not even win, but who will absolutely be able to challenge Biden or maybe defeat Kamala if she's the lead person. It makes no sense to take out the Republicans' laundry for them. There's a reason why Mitch McConnell wants to he insisted on the next Senate being the one to vote on the impeachment, because he can finally cut the cancer of Trump from his party and begin to rebuild. Fuck them. Why if your goal is to win the game, why not let your enemies destroy themselves? I understand that, well, Trump could rise again. Trump never has run against the GOP. He's hijacked the GOP and forced them to do his bidding, but he's never had the flat out opposition of the GOP. Never. Trump is not winning anything without the Republican support, and the Republicans ain't winning shit if Trump is siphoning off so many of their base. But you know what? Democrats and the people who vote for them are hard-headed, so y'all do what y'all want. I don't give a shit. But yeah, in addition to just pardoning people, Trump lifted like a bunch of travel bans. He tried to file some sanctions against China, basically pissing on everything so that Biden would have to come in day one at a handicap. And I think Biden signed like 17 executive orders, mostly overruling just Trump's most blatant trash policies. Like he stopped the Keystone Pipeline. There's some workers on Fox News crying about how Biden doesn't care about the jobs of 11,000 people. Fuck y'all. Tell that to the motherfuckers that Standing Rock, whose water you tainted not even a month after that fucking pipeline went in, who are still in jail for trying to protect their water rights. But you bitches go, oh, I came from Arkansas, now I'm out of work. Okay. And that sucks. But get another fucking job. Didn't y'all just tell us that the economy is doing the best it's ever been because Trump created all these fucking jobs? Go get one then. Don't talk to me about that when you're defiling the fucking land and the water for people just to make fucking money for millionaires. Get the fuck out of here. What else did he do? Oh yeah, then he took away all the travel bans, which would just basically say, oh yeah, Joe let him in. Now, Joe Biden did rescind the travel ban based on being a Muslim, but he's also the guy who's talking about we might need to shut down again. Now is not the time to just abandon all controls. So of course Fox News is trying to frame it as Biden has only been in office for X amount of time and the world's already going to shit, laying all kinds of dumb shit at his feet. But we got at least 17 executive orders that, of course, the ADOS, specifically Tariq Nasheed, are unpleased with because black people voted him in office. He didn't make anything for us. He made it easier for immigrants. I'm like, dog, it's literally day one. Now, I like the energy of holding Biden accountable because I told y'all it's up to y'all to do it, but that ain't it. Because now you just sound like a stupid kid and you're easily ignored. Like, what the fuck? And other nonsense. So Danileigh, who sings that song, My Little Baby. I don't sing niggas. But anyway, she dropped a song called Redbone. And, I'm mad at myself because I spent like 10 minutes trying to find it. And then I found it. And, the complaints that I was hearing is, one, I didn't look at the lyrics. I just heard the song's title is Redbone. So a bunch of dark-skinned women, to include Eliza Reign, Future's most annoying and recent baby mama, saying that, calling Danny a pygmesia, that she's contributing to colorism, which, yeah, that's what made me want to listen to see if that was even it, or are they just mad that the song is called Redbone? Never mind the messaging. That song was utter trash. Like, it wouldn't even make World Star. Niggas would have lit it up in the comments. But I could see, some people think it's a shot at the baby mama or previous girl who was dark-skinned. So she should have kept that, not barring any message or anything like that. The song was just ass. So that's where we're at with that. Oh, immediately following the inauguration. So I was ready for the fucking, I don't know if it was going to be the Boogaloo or if we were getting invaded, but I live about 15 to 20 minutes outside of the DC border, 25, 30 minutes from downtown DC. And that's just by distance, never mind traffic. So, I've seen inauguration fireworks from downtown, but I've never been able to go out on my balcony to see them. And this year was no different. However, I didn't know that my little town had decided to have their own fireworks, and they bought the good shit. And it was going to go off at 10 o'clock. I'm sitting there in my kitchen, and my floor literally starts rumbling. I feel the vibrations under my feet. I'm like, what the hell was that? My dad's like, oh, the neighbor's bringing his trash can back. I'm like, what's in that trash can? A ton of lead? Like, I shouldn't be able to feel it. And then I felt the rumble go boom, 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 boom. Boy, I thought that the Boogaloo boys had come with the ordinance, or the fucking Koreans were, jumping out of airplanes outside. I ran downstairs to go get my armor and shit real quick. And then finally my dad was like, oh, the fireworks at the church. So maybe I'm paranoid, but maybe if you stay ready, you don't got to get ready. Remember that. This weekend, I got to watch American Skin. Now, there are going to be some spoilers here. I'm going to give a base review of it. So, right now, American Skin is a movie produced by Spike Lee, directed by Nate Parker from the Nat Turner story and everything. I am about to spoil the movie if you have not watched it. Look at the timestamps and go to the next topic. Spoiling it now. So, I saw the video, the preview for this not too long ago. I talked about it on the podcast, and I was excited to see it because it was basically John Q, but against the cops who have been plaguing our community, murdering unarmed black men just for the mere because they could. And it looked like a father had enough. So I was excited to see this. Now, this movie was amazing. This movie was fucking terrible at the same time. In hindsight, I look at it as maybe I put too many expectations on what this film could or would achieve just because of what I wanted to see, because that innate urge, not only just in me and not specific to like violence or anything, but just the urge of anybody in our community who wants to see this end. And we look to our entertainment venues not only to highlight social issues and everything, but to maybe offer solutions, or to maybe some, even if it's not solutions, some closure or a way forward, even if it's not the best way. But you couldn't help but end this movie feeling unsatisfied. But at the same time, is that fair to expect a movie ending? Like, what ending could they have put on there that truly would have satisfied all of you and not a base part of you? Whether that's one of your more based unvirtuous desires or a virtuous desire that leaves you hollow to the real world. What I mean by that is I fully expected Nate Parker's character to kill the cop or cops that killed his son. It played out, the acting within 30 seconds. I felt I'm not like one of those easily triggered people, but I felt my heart rate up. You ever feel like you're about to cry, but the tears can't even come out, but you just feel that pressure? Like, I was sitting up like I was playing Mortal Kombat and it was round 3 and I'm losing. Like, I could not look away, even though I knew what was going to happen. The acting on Nate Parker's side, the acting on his son's side, the acting of the police officers before they actually had speaking parts, but just it was triggering. Like, to anybody who's driven while black, who's been pulled over, who watches the news, who's been watching these body cameras, it was so real, so authentic. And then, of course, the media campaign with no charges, and they pulling out the victim's mother to call for peace because of the riots that were happening, and they always wanted the movie just depicted this playbook of how they try to control the narrative and expect us to just go back to business as usual after they murder one of ours. So that's what I was expecting. That's because that's real life. Like, you can't tell a movie, regardless of the ending, without that, because that's what happens. And that's what I was excited about this movie, because I knew it was going to be different. I knew that's not where it was going to stop. They were going to show consequences. But they never came, man. Now, but what does that even mean to me? Like, do I need to see a cop murdered in effigy or on the silver screen? If for nothing else, just for revenge? No. But at the same time, the reason why I wanted to see that in film is because it hasn't been done before. And it would be the equivalent, in my mind, to the reaction or to the catalyst of what happened when NWA released Fuck the Police all those decades ago. Because this does not happen. I don't know any movie. Yeah, there's movies where cops have been killed by black people, but most of the time they were crooked cops, they were unvirtuous or not. No. I wanted to see some Dorner love, like Chris Dorner shit, where this father shot this police officer and then go. Because even though it's a movie that, I'm sorry, the appealing to the better nature, the sensibilities, the compassion of your oppressor has gotten us nothing and nowhere. They need to see what it's like on the other side. Now, I do believe that was the aim of the movie. And I do believe that they may have forced some people to view some things differently, but that's not what I'm asking for. I'm talking about the people who need to see the other side of where this can go, and we are this close to being there. But that's where this movie failed me, because it did the we're this close, but it backed away. You can't say I'm this close and then take a step back. No, you're supposed to say we're this close and then stay right the fuck there. Draw the line in the fucking sand and wish a nigga would. But we didn't wish a nigga would. We went up to that line and said, oh, okay, yeah, we weren't going to do it. We walked away. And then he got shot in the end of it. And that's probably how it would happen in real life. But the only people in this movie that got shot were black. The son that got killed, who started this whole thing, one of the father's uncles or whoever who helped him raid the police station, and then the main character, the father, got killed. But what do we get to watch? We got to watch cops plead them case about and humanize themselves. This is how we're trained. This is the fuck out of here, because we know that. We know that. We know cops are human. We know this is a hard job. But we also know that's not a fucking excuse. And if you can't handle it, if you're scary, don't pick up the fucking badge. And if losing your humanity, your judgment is what you think requires to stay to survive, then you're in the wrong fucking line of work. And just the tears, the waterworks. It was the white male version of how white women just start crying, no matter how wrong they are, thinking that their tears are going to save them. It was just so fucking annoying. And then, of course, they had the kumbaya moment at the end where, you know, the white man thought he was about to get shot, and he didn't. And he said, oh, now you know. Now you, all right, whatever, fucker. And they go walk out, and the white man's all, oh, you've opened my eyes. I'm going to do better. And then, poof, and then the black man's dead. Get the fuck out of here, man. I didn't need to see that. I didn't want to see it. But at the same time, it's like, thinking about it from a filmmaker's standpoint, Spike Lee is Spike Lee. So if it can't happen in the Spike Lee joint, when can it happen? Or maybe Spike Lee felt responsible because Nate Parker is an up-and-coming star, and that even though Spike Lee could probably get away with it and be good, it's not going to affect his legacy. It's not going to affect his bottom line, his money, because he's already, for the most part, passively blackballed from a lot of Hollywood features, per his own words. He can't get the funding that other people can that don't have half his pedigree. Maybe he was looking out for Nate Parker, not wanting him to be associated with that. He recognized that Nate Parker has more things to do on that screen. I don't know. I'm guessing. I'm looking for an alibi as to why we had to watch this kumbaya shit, leaving me empty again. This is one of those movies that is an absolute must see, but not, I don't say it's a must see because like Fast and the Furious, or it was just so entertaining and you're going to be quoting it for the rest of your life. And like, no, it's a must see, just like The Passion of the Christ was a must see. It's a must see like Amistad. Well, I'll watch Amistad again, but there's certain movies that you'll watch once and you'll never watch again. Fruitvale Station, it's a must see, like the Central Park 5 story, because you need to have your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the culture and how it's affecting those outside the culture, because you need to be calibrated, you need to be prepared. It's going to be painful from the second you turn it on, but I just want to temper expectations. You need to see it because it's required reading, not because the movie is so dope. Because there's moments of sheer brilliance, there's moments of fuck this, but that's reality. That's literally what we're living through right now. I intend to watch Regina King's movie One Night in Miami, which is evidently about a night where Malcolm X, Jim Brown, somebody else went to Miami to watch Muhammad Ali fight for a title. I've heard good things about it, so I'll probably watch that this weekend. All right. So off of American Skin, going into the NRA. So the NRA has declared bankruptcy, but if Trump has taught us anything, bankruptcy ain't what it means to us black people, but what it means to rich white people and rich white corporations. This is widely viewed as not a NRA is going under. Don't get me wrong, the NRA has been suffering for the last several years. They've, if you've been in the gun community at all, you know that people are losing faith in NRA. Their enrollment's down, their funding is down, and stuff like that. But the NRA is still very much alive. And they've been accused of corruption at the top levels. So a lot of people are leaving the NRA for other NRA-like lobbies. But the NRA is tired of being based in New York because New York has some of the strictest gun laws in the country. And beyond that, they are leading the charge in trying to get manufacturers and corporations held liable for the crimes committed with their guns. And they've acted, Bloomberg, has actively declared war on the NRA. So they've been trying to get them tariffed and red tape where they can't operate. So they want to declare Chapter 11, for tax purposes and stuff like that. But for the main benefit of them filing for bankruptcy is that allows them to leave New York and go down to Texas and avoid New York's bullshit. And New York, of course, is fighting that because they want to destroy the NRA. So just keep that in mind, because all of you new black people who, still want gun control in some form or fashion, which is fine, but you now can't be thinking of it just as, oh yeah, you are a gun owner. And just because Biden is now president does not mean you are any safer than you were when Trump was president. You understand the need for a gun. You need to understand that common sense ain't common, and we need to listen to gun experts on laws regarding guns. And we also need to temper our expectations, because no law regarding the gun is going to fix how people act and what people do. Like when a criminal wants to go rob a bank or a store, does he do it in the car that is registered in his name? No. Because he knows that. He's going to go steal a car and then go rob the bank. So if you ban driver's licenses, is that going to stop it? If you ban, what does that do? The cars are regulated as shit, but cars still get used in the commissions of crime. Yeah, not getting on that soapbox today. Just keep alive, keep cognizant of the threats to the Second Amendment and how they will very much affect black people the worst, the fastest. There was a story out of Missouri. It was just complete and utterly tragic. A woman has been charged with murdering the person suspected in killing her brother. And before we get into the details of that, it's important to understand that this same woman lost another brother and a cousin, I believe, a few years ago the same way. Yeah, 8-year-old nephew and 8-year-old nephew and his friend were killed in 2006 in a shooting while they were playing video games. As stray bullets and stuff like that. So this woman has already seen 2 young men in her life snatched from her by killings, and now her other younger brother was murdered, and the streets knew who it was. From what I read, she didn't necessarily plan to hunt him down, but she knew who he was, and they wanted to basically convince him to turn himself in. They agreed to talk, but then they tried to double cross her. There was an altercation. She ended up shooting this man as he tried to flee. I think she shot him through a car door or something like that. Where she screwed herself up. I mean, I'm sure eventually somebody was going to get the details about this, but where she screwed herself up was she got all poetic and went home and texted the phone of her dead brother saying, "I've avenged you," or something along those lines. But of course, at the funeral, she buried the phone with him, thinking that nobody would ever find it. But of course, they did a wire trap after she was a suspect. They dug up the phone. It's right there in the admission of guilt. I feel for her. I can't say I wouldn't have done the same. Well, I wouldn't have done the text, but I can't say I wouldn't have went off and found that man and put a hole in him myself. But you hate to see it. So many lives destroyed. And for what? For what? Her name is Tatiana Coppage. She's been charged with second-degree murder and armed criminal action in the death of 36-year-old Keith Lars, who killed her younger brother. Oh, man. I'm sorry if I'm dragging, man. Like I said, my sleep schedule has been ass, and I'm yawning uncontrollably. The National Guard. So the Senate had to do a vote, and there was, a lot of people were upset about how the National Guard had to sleep on the floors of the congressional building. But anybody who's actually been employed or, trained in the field was not complaining about sleeping on those floors. There's a roof. It wasn't cold. What they were complaining about was because some member of Congress who was just to be identified insisted that they couldn't sit there while Congress was in session to vote, so they moved them to a parking garage, which not only was already spoken for by other troops and assets, but was cold, condensed, and there was only one functional bathroom for thousands of troops. And it's no surprise that over 100 National Guardsmen have tested positive for COVID. So just add that to the charges of those rioters and to Donald Trump for endangering the lives of troops. But all indications are that the Justice Department is leaning towards not charging the rioters, or at least not charging them with anything specific to insurrection and trespass, an attack on democracy, so much as just trespass and breaking property. and I went to SureSight's website, or I went to a bunch of websites where they're reporting that that's being considered, which leads me to believe, I'm anti-impeaching Trump, not because it's the wrong thing to do. He absolutely deserves to be impeached, but from a chestnut checkers standpoint that I discussed earlier, we want him around to disrupt and when I say we, I mean Democrats. I'm not a registered Democrat. Well, I think I am just for news, but I don't align with the Democrats. But if you do, it makes no sense to allow your enemy to regroup or to help him regroup. But whatever. Y'all hard-headed, do what y'all want. And all while this is happening, the Senator Marjorie Taylor, wait, is she a senator or is she a House member? Hold on. She is a House member. Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, the day that Biden got inaugurated, submitted articles of impeachment. I don't know what the exact articles that she cited were, but she made it clear she was going to do it before then, and it's pure soccer mom energy. Like, you're not calling the police, I'm calling the police. Just the bar for white women to succeed, let alone to get into Congress, is so fucking low. So low. Like, there's another congresswoman from Colorado, and she made waves because she wants to carry her weapon into the congressional floor. And that was even before the riots and everything. But somebody showed me her bio, and this chick, up until 6 months before becoming a Congress member, she didn't even have her GED. She just got it. And I don't knock anybody who got their GED, or, again, traditional education needs an overhaul. She might be a very smart girl, but I do know that no Negro would have been able to get elected to Congress with that kind of academic record or lack of record. And now she's a lawmaker. So while I agree with her Second Amendment stances and stuff like that, she's a fucking nut. An incompetent nut. This Marjorie Taylor chick is a QAnon fanatic. Black people can't do that shit. Why the fuck is the bar for common sense and qualifications for the whites so low when you would think that for us to get representation, we have to be perfect. And even when we're perfect, they'll talk about our tan suit. Perfect characterized, not his term. I'm not getting into this politics, Joe. I don't know. Tired of white women, white womening. It's fucking annoying. Talked about the executive orders. I'm going to leave on some nonsense because I've been talking for a little bit and I'm tired. I want to keep this short and sweet. But basically, as of Wednesday, what is chief in my mind? Number one, I'll do the Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin. That's what I'm going to end on because I'm not going to get too deep into it. I do suggest going and listen to the Joe Budden podcast, episode 408. It's called Pump It Up. It's a play on his song Pump It Up, but they're talking to a guy whose last name is Pompano. He's an expert on financial literacy and currency, and he basically breaks down the best cause for getting into Bitcoin. The too long didn't read version is that we are conceptualizing, we as in people who are not in Bitcoin or black people in specific, don't understand what Bitcoin is. We think it's just like internet money or like, tokens for Chuck E. Cheese where you can buy things at the Chuck E. Cheese prize store, but they're only good here, or tickets. They're only good here in Chuck E. Cheese. They have no legal tender, which is not the case because not only are more and more vendors taking Bitcoin for services and goods, but you don't want to send it. Bitcoin is going to do what you think your retirement savings account is doing. It's immune to inflation, and it's a commodity that is going to only gain in worth. And even though it's volatile, meaning it'll streak high some days and then crash, when it crashes, it never crashes to the level of when you bought into it. It is guaranteed to appreciate. So if you want to start establishing generational wealth, you buy into Bitcoin and you don't spend it like money, it's your nest egg. And then once it matures, you can chip off little pieces of it to pay goods and services, but really you will have a base to leave to those who come after you. So for that reason, I went and ordered a Bitcoin wallet. There's two ways to do it. A hard wallet is a physical one, which is kind of what's in the news with those guys. He lost it in a landfill or some shit. And then there's a digital one. The digital one is a little less secure because it's out there where somebody can hack it, but there are some that are better than others. So as soon as I get my hard wallet, I'm going to start making my first deposits in the Bitcoin and Ethereum once I finalize my understanding what Ethereum is. I think I have a little bit of an idea, but I'm not always sold on it. Well, I'm sold I'm going to get it. I just don't know what the best strategy to get it. So I encourage all of you to get into to Bitcoin. That's it. Black people are losing their fucking minds over a statement made by a doctor regarding the Tuskegee syphilis study. Now, let me see if I can read it, because I want you guys to absorb it before I give you my take, and we'll go from there. All right. So this is made by Dr. Wendy, aka Dr. Everywoman. I'm not sure too much about her. I went to her website, and she appears to be a black female doctor who specializes in medicine for black people, specifically black women. So she tweeted this: to anyone using the Tuskegee experiment as reason to not get the COVID-19 vaccine, spit. And this is on Twitter. She pressed colon and she pressed enter. Tuskegee was trash, period. Enter. These black men were denied known and effective treatment for syphilis, period. However, if we decline known and effective prevention of COVID-19, we are Tuskegeeing ourselves. Now, for those of you who don't know or didn't hear it on my other podcast, I am a graduate of Tuskegee University. Okay, so Tuskegee, the town, the city, the people, the college, the university are very near and dear to my heart. And I don't abide any shit talking to the pride of the swift growing South. Okay, my school produces legends. When I read this, I did not even get triggered at once, but I noticed that people who are either anti-vax or just anti-COVID vaccine were sharing this left and right. And I'm like, something's wrong. And I read it, and it became painfully apparent to me that people are under the impression that Dr. Wendy just disrespected Tuskegee. And they're focusing on the part of the tweet that says Tuskegee was trash. Now, I immediately knew what she did, because this is exactly why I don't fucking tweet. People make fun of me on Facebook saying, oh, I type these long ass status and everything, but I'm able to fully flesh out a thought in one cohesive moment. To do that on Twitter, you have to basically break up your tweets at logical points, try to make them flow together, and hope that the people who see your tweets read them in order properly, all the while not making spelling errors. You can't edit. Fuck that shit. I only tweet when I'm in Facebook jail for this exact reason, because it's clear that when she said Tuskegee or typed Tuskegee was trash, she meant the Tuskegee experiment. But because it's Twitter and she was being mindful of the character limit and trying to make a short, snappy tweet, one concise tweet, she wrote Tuskegee was trash. And people who's at worst, or how do I phrase this? Because I don't think everybody who took exception to this is like compromised intellectually or anything like that. But they're definitely the people who just don't know how to read or ignore context and stuff like that, who this defeated. All they saw was Tuskegee trash, and they entered into rep my set mode. But for the others who are taking it, and rightfully so, I'm not saying this is a non-problematic tweet, but the problems need to be identified. And my boy Nick, shout out to Nick Dub. If you've ever been to the Soul Inn and the world famous Soul Inn in Tuskegee, he probably bounced there for you. But Nick, at first it appeared that he was just mad because he perceived a diss to his hometown. He's from Tuskegee. But then he focused on that as a doctor, as a professional, she needs to hold it, especially using her platform out there, trying to not only influence people to take a vaccine, but to speak to us as one of us. She needs to be a better steward of her platform. Because somebody like Nick, who has to hustle, get it out the mud, who's looked at as less than before he even opens his mouth, does not have the benefit of making a statement that he can't be held accountable for the first time every time. And I fuck with that. I respect that's how that is. And I that's why I'm not trying to save her. She definitely needs to reevaluate how she uses Twitter. But I took this as somebody who probably doesn't tweet a lot, and then two, doesn't realize that when you're abbreviating things, you still need to make it painfully clear, because at best Twitter's on jokes, and at worst they're going to get fucking inflamed on your ass. Black Twitter is going to go fucking ham. But that said, at no point is it okay to construe that this woman attacked the city of Tuskegee, the people who live in Tuskegee, the university that is located in Tuskegee, the Tuskegee Airmen, anything to do with Tuskegee. She did not attack Tuskegee. You got to understand that this is a doctor who day in, day out is trying to serve her people, who has come to her professional opinion that the vaccine is not only safe but in our best interest. Now, if you don't agree with that, that's fine. But she does. And from that standpoint, the chief argument that she finds she has to deal with is people citing the Tuskegee experiment, the Tuskegee syphilis study, as the reason why they will not take the vaccine. But the flip side of that is, unfortunately, most people who quote the Tuskegee syphilis study have no idea what actually happened in the Tuskegee syphilis study. And, before today, I would have thought that was just outsiders, because not only was it required reading for anybody who went to Tuskegee University for orientation, it's clear motherfuckers either cheated or forgot or whatever. And even some of the locals don't get it, because that far too many of you are under the impression that during the Tuskegee syphilis study, the government took syphilis in a needle and put it into black men who were previously uninfected and watched them die. That is not what happened. It is true that the government sat there and watched black men who had syphilis die, but they did not inject it in them. What they did do was they recognized an outbreak was happening in black people in Tuskegee. And rather than offer the treatment, because this is around the 30s, and hold on, when was the cure for syphilis? When was the cure for syphilis? So they had a functional cure for the bacteria that was discovered that causes syphilis was discovered and identified in 1905, and penicillin, which was the treatment for it, was a mainstay in the 20s. So they had a functional cure years, at least a decade, well before the first member of the Tuskegee syphilis study. But instead of administering that cure that they've used all over the world, they elected to watch black people wither away and suffer, because syphilis operates in stages. And for the mid to latter stages, the only real pathology, meaning the study of how the disease affects the body and everything, has either been anecdotal or as a result of autopsies, because there were people who syphilis won't kill you overnight. You can get pretty old and die from syphilis, but it starts eating away at your brain. So they wanted to watch this shit happen in real time over the span of years to people who they considered disposable. The Negro male in the South. So from 1932 to 1972, they watched these men die. That's the true nefarious nature of the Tuskegee syphilis study. Not them injecting the stuff in there. They kept these men in the dark about what they had. They told them they had bad blood. They gave them vitamins and all this other bullshit, instead of just giving them the syphilis shot that would have saved their lives. And not only their lives, would have kept them from spreading this shit to the rest of the fucking town. They paid off the leadership of Tuskegee, gave them kickbacks to keep it quiet. That's what the Tuskegee syphilis study was. So if you put that into context, and it's not them injecting it, to cite the Tuskegee syphilis study as a reason why you're not going to take this vaccine seems ludicrous to somebody whose medical expertise and opinion leads them to believe that this vaccine is safe. That's why she made this comment. On the flip side, if you don't view the vaccine as safe, then yes, you still have the right to be skeptical because you don't want to be a guinea pig. And that's where I'm at with it. It's not that I don't even view it as I don't view it as an attack on us, but the timetable is too small for me. I don't think that they've done the long-term studies because they can't. The vaccine is new. So that's why I'm passing on it until I have to get it. But what I don't think is that they're giving it to me or targeting black people just to see what it'll happen, because they're running out. White people are lining up to get it. So what she was saying is, if there's a treatment out there that we know works or is effective, and we're refusing to get it because of misinformation, that is the equivalent of us pulling a Tuskegee syphilis study on ourselves. Now, even if she had worded this properly, she was going to get smoke for it because it's provocative. But it would have been the right kind of smoke. Unfortunately, we're sitting here arguing about the intent, the insult, and the intent of what she said versus the message of what she said, which is helping and serving no one. So I'm not asking for a pass for her, because she's a grown ass woman. She's like Nick and his boy said on the post said, Say what you mean when what you say. You got a doctor for a reason. You went to all that school, learn how to write. You know, especially now that you're using social media, you don't get to say some shit and be like, oh, you know. And then they're saying, well, why didn't she clear it up? You gotta understand something. This is an older woman who grew up before the digital age. Her mentions are in shambles. She doesn't want to say something else and invite more fury, but at the same time, she don't want to delete it because then it appears that that's exactly what she did. She insulted Tuskegee. So I'm sure she don't know what the fuck to do. But I know what she's not doing. She's not doubling down on the insults if she truly meant to insult Tuskegee. Because what does she care? Because that's not what it is. So the longer we have that stupid argument and that point, you're just sanctioning people to close their ears about the very real message that needs to be heard. We got to stop doing this to ourselves, especially now. This is Candace Owens, somebody who is a known agent and enemy to the community, who profits from our pain and getting over on us. Then yeah, fry her at all costs. If this was a white supremacist, if it was even Bill Gates, who again we've gone over how Bill Gates is not trying to microchip you motherfuckers, you're not worth it. But anybody outside the community, but this is a woman who is a champion for black people, for black people's health, for black women's health. Y'all got to stop this shit, honestly and truly. Tell her about herself, tell her to watch her mouth, tell her to be careful when she mentions Tuskegee. I'm all for that. But don't try to make her out to be something she's not. And I'm not saying that because I care about her feelings or anything. We need our frontline workers in there in the trenches keeping it real for us. Because that's the only thing that's going to keep another Tuskegee syphilis study from happening. But yeah, off my soapbox on that. Get into Bitcoin. I think every time I make an invest, well, my plan is to do at least 100 a month just to start. I'm just going to buy Bitcoin and leave it there. Buy Bitcoin and leave it there. I'm also going to get into another cryptocurrency called Ethereum, and which my brother evidently is already in. Didn't tell nobody. This motherfucker's going to get rich and just leave us in a home. Fuck him. But and the more, whenever I hear any Bitcoin news or anything like that, I guess I'll bring it up on the pod and everything. But I highly encourage you to go listen to an expert break it down to the layman version for anybody to understand on the Joe Budden podcast, episode 408, I want to say. Well, let me look. Yeah, episode 408, pump it up. Just check the timestamps and listen to, I think his name is Michael Pompano, talk about the benefits of Bitcoin and how to approach it and why you should approach it. Again, if you want to be featured, you don't have to say the whole pod, but if there's a topic you want to get some stuff off about, if you want to pre-record, if you want to do it live, you can hit me up. I'm out of Facebook jail for now, so you can hit me up on my Facebook DMs on the Control Your Epps-perience Facebook fan page. You can hit my actual Facebook, Alan Epps, DMs. You can tweet me at DaPenizmightier, DaPenizmighthier. Hit me on Instagram at Control Your Epps-perience, separated by underscores. You can email me, askapps@gmail.com. I don't know if y'all are busy or what it is, but I'm noticing my listenership is going down. That's partly on me. I haven't been consistent over these last couple of weeks. But hey, share my shit. That's why I'm doing this for y'all. I don't get paid for this. This is a hobby, but I'm doing it for the culture. Otherwise, please, take care of yourselves out here and stay safe. And if there's anything you want me to talk about, I'm here for you. I'm a servant of the people. Till next time, I'll make sure y'all control your experience.